Ezekiel 8:16. And he brought me into the Eskatani lower wall, or the eastern Edeni door, front yard, the inner upper courtyard of Qasr or Hazrat, or Alcazar of Allah's, Isahi Alcazar of Allah's house. And looking down through the Miftah Boazi Barzakh Barrier Korniya, or Genesis 6, I think 16, the window of the Noah's Ark Kabe, Kibotos cube, or the belly bottom of the day door disc of Gazelle Hind deer of dawn, of the Christ the Karimi scrying ball, or the scrying safe of secret, or we call it Makhzan al-Asrar, or the chamber of secrets. And what are the secrets? Those are the secrets that are you cannot weigh them and you cannot number them. They are related to the shu'ur, or shearing the serious or serious star of consciousness, or the hair rays of Isahi, source of talking Mashair, Sharia, which means in Hebrew or Arabic or Persian or Aramaic, poetry. And so these are the secrets of the poetry. And so from there, the Turturi temple, or the book body, or the Heikal of Allah, between the paradisiac Ulam Amudim of here, the Holy Quran 13:10, or the 144 cubita tall Ulam Amudim that owns and encompasses with the width wide angle, from the wide angle wise, and the telephotoing wise, or we call it primordial probing portal, periscope porch, or the perpendicular porch, and the altar of the burning offering, or the mazbah, on the mammary membrane, or the plain bridge of the crossing, where Abrahamahi Maqam got in at Genesis 22:9, or as we said before this, or Genesis 22 in the same verses a little bit ahead, about the offering of the Isaac, or Ishaq, or Ishaq, or Ishakios, and has nothing to do with the laughing of the God, or God actualizes, or God holifies, or God sanctifies. And that's how the mother Sarah was conceived, with Ishaq, or what we get in Holy Quran, where chapter 37 and verse 107. All right, remember that is the Imam Hussein, the great Fadiyah, or وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمًا, and that Imam Hussein is the burnt offering in this altar Mizbah on the Maqam Ibrahim, or the Magomi membrane, on which Abraham, instead of Ishaq, he got the Imam Hussein and zabhed and zabahat and killed him, and then gave his smokah to the Christ Karimi Salam screen, behind whom Allah was looking what can be a magnificent part of the creation to be offered, and Abraham gave the Imam Hussein, and that's how the cry of the Christ Karimi, I pupil spring, got the Moses at the very same time to cross, and that's how we see the how where Ezekiel is. And so let us continue. And so the survey is going on, a survey of Ezekiel 8:16, and there, and what does he see? And their mitrasuryai namastakarayim faces, because these orangutans are worshipping antelope or the Helios, okay? And so faces toward east. This east is the real geographical east, okay? This is not that east or that ancient, which means old footstepping place, or the first place that our human race descended into the plane of the dinosaurs and chimpanzees and orangutans and the animal minds, owls, jackals, that the animal minds that don't have the human world. And so toward the east, or the eastern sunrise, or we call it the Heliocentric Qadam or of heliocentrism, or Barack Hussein Obama, Oful Efaliani Arona, or Sundari. That's where they are doing the Surya Namastakara toward this piece of Sodomat swastika. Or we also call it as antelope. The antelope comes from antala, which means the tala, or rising, or antelios, according to Book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse, I think, 15 or to 18, somewhere around there. We will look at this filthy thing, this filthy president later on, but that is why he is called Helios. And so they are looking toward that, or that's the reason that the this King Kong Hanuman has his jaw has the sign of biting the sun, and actually we read about that fist of the Christ, that iron fist that is gonna break that genetically modified jaw, and in an amazing fight, and that has risen from Western White House at the end of the time. You can see his penis coming up, and by Kirtan Krab, sun salutation, Sungazing. If you know about the Sungazing or Heliocentrism, they worship the black holy Shams or Shamash toward the east, and that's why they are getting cooked. It's actually a good idea to just see what east is this east, although we're going to read it, but to make it more cohesive, here it's talking about what hatta iza balagha matla al shams. This is the shams, or this sodomite sack of scum, and that matla is where he's coming. And again, the people that are looking toward the rising of the sun, or these zombie Zen zombies and Shakyamuni psychopaths of the Dishitian emperor, or the Helios, they are the ones that what we have not made against it any shield for them, and so they are getting what baked, not under, getting tanned and tanning under the sun, but they have no garment or the armor of the Holy Spirit armor to prevent themselves from being possessed and raped by this orangutan and his army. And so this matla, we read about this matla, if we go, I think, to just make it more cohesive, although we're gonna look at it later and in detail. But if you go to Revelation 16 about this matla, I think you can read. Here it is. Revelation 16:8. And upon the sun, his wheel upon the sun. No, that is not the one. And yes, here the seat of the beast and kingdom of the beast was raised. Okay, here it is not the kings of the east, but it is the kings of what? Kings of Antelios, Helios. And so this Antelios is the antelope Helios, and this antelo or the rising is what? Is this antelope or matla of 19. And where the hell this is? Here we read where the sun is sunsetting. When the sun is sunsetting, just like me and you, and going to sleep, we are not in this realm anymore, we are in the other realm. And once we wake up, our zuriya comes and ride back on this animal body or animated mind machine. And so just like us, the sun is going to that underworldly Babel pit where the sun is, and actually from there, as we read, we're gonna read in Joshua, Yeshua 10 later on, we can exterminate the human race, can exterminate the F-35 making and B-2 bomber making ape race with funky tech toys, with the technology, with the God-made technology way above. That's why I'm saying that die so that you can join the Christ and the angels in an amazing pulverization of these yugi yeasts of vagina. And so again, that vagina hellhole or the black hole is where this sun is going into it, or that's why you see a greater abomination. And that is what? Surya Namaskaraing toward the sun, or sun salutation, or sun dancing toward the swastika that you can see its carvings even in Pomaponko. Then he said unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of the man, or son of man? Is it lighting to the Isahi east? Okay, this east is what we call it as the heavenly, is the qidma or the footstep or the cascade, or where the two legs are put, or the Boazi base comes and stabilizes the Magomi membrane, as well as the hell and Hades together. And so is it a lasting to the heavenly house of Yehuda that they commit the abomination, or collapsing in the past fountain, or towing, or twisting, or going inside the empty ego, which they commit here in the Mount Meru Marut, for they have filled the land. This is the reason. Check it out. Once you turn your back to the east and then turn toward the physical east, and then you say goodbye to that Edeni east, then what happens? for they have filled the land with cruel negligence, with violence, with silence, with khamash, with khabas, with khabis, with khamash, and that is with the oppression. And so if you want to see what that means, whether you are a Muslim and Christian or you are a Gentile victim of this monstrous God of Gentiles, then look at what he has done mercilessly to the people in China or to the people in the North Korea. They are the communists, hey? They are the wasted victims of this monster. Or look at what he has done to many other that are not the master race of the Shakyamuni Bodhisattvas or the Hoshang or Shoi ones, or the world wars that he does, or any means is justified for this filthy sack of scum to maximize, to reach to his purpose and target, and that is to do the evil awful Efaliam as a Brahman above the Haman, just brings tremendous amount of hatred, because that is how he can feed himself, by exterminating love and bringing. That's why they have filled the land with khamash, or the violence and the silence. And that is how we see here that what is happening. We see here that that thou shalt destroy them, because they destroy the earth, and that's why that they are actually destroying the earth. Okay, let me just mark it here so that you see it better. This is how they are destroying the earth. And Revelation 11:18, by making Pentagon, by making UN, by making American psychiatrist societies that it can be bought, and so that it can bring the sodomy of the Saddam or the damaged mentality outside of the mental conditions. You can do everything that you want. You don't need only to have a tsunami in order to have a nuclear meltdown in a basically nuclear reactor to get the oceans polluted with the garbage, or you don't need to all of the hostilities that we are doing to our species are actually causing destruction on the planet, because all of the systems and kingdoms are interconnected to each other. And so once you say that I am the Brahman or above the Haman, then it means that I am above, as a Sayyidul Arz, I am above all of these systems, and all of these systems must reach to destruction, because I am the Shova or Shiva or Su'a or Sayyat. What does Shova, Hebrew Sarang 77, 22 and 23 does? Shova destroys. That's the job of Shova. That's the program, and Allah has his program is made in a way by Allah that he's doing his job, and he doesn't care about you. And if he gives you bunch of sexual freedom or those kind of garbage, he is in fact controlling you and making a perfect victim from you. And the worst victims are the ones that are actually happy with the hack of their mentality and think they think that they have found it. They are moksha. This is all nothing, but it is not it is not nothing. It is amazing creation of Allah, Love Lord, that at every single second entire particles and waves and entire everything is consuming and benefiting from infinite amount of love of Allah, that making it to work. And so that is how the destruction comes. Destruction in definitions, in human values, and all of those. And so that is how they have basically filled the land with violence. We are not only talking about the crackdown on the Great March of Return, that we have reached to that level of inequality. Meanwhile, that bunch of orangutans are talking about the fact that we are the sexual minority and we have been there has been tremendous amount of injustice exerted upon us, and although they are the absolute majority, and their government, their God, that they are actually under the umbrella of its NSA control, are actually bombing the people, at the savages outside of the Iron Dome defense system of the Brave New World, that their only defense system against this amount of inequality is to shout Allahu Akbar in front of what? In front of a cruise missile that is fired from couple of thousand kilometers away, or in front of a F-16, Israeli F-16 that is bombing, or in front under Saudi Arabian F-18 that is bombing them in Yemen, or many other places, or the people that have been raped and butchered by the Russian-backed Serbian military, whether they are the Bosnian Muslims or the Christians, whatever. That's just regardless of that. That is the amount of the inequality. The ships of the field are being completely butchered by poking the apple of God's eye, by this is, and that is why that they have filled the land with the earth, with violence and silence and khamash and khabs, which means evil. And that is why earth is what they call it as warming up, because again, as I said, one Palestinian worth more than, although every single program has a unique registry in the system, but one single Palestinian program or word that is Allah Akbaring is louder in the creation and more fruitful than the entire population of the Taoists and Buddhists and Hindus and atheists of this entire planet. And so once you kill one of those, that's how it start warming up, because that is an alchemized consciousness that is Allah Akbaring. And that's the green fruit of the field that is saying Alhamdulillah, or all him to Allah for this creation. The rest are just bunch of PhD potatoes that in what closest that they think they found the answer, and the best answer they have is, all right, let's how about to think that it's a big, gigantic, a stinky, a smoky fart that we call it Black Bang, or the Big Bang of the Baba Baboon's belly, and that's how we are farted out of nothing, and that's how they say they worship that. And so once you reach to that level of retardation of consciousness, and then you become this much alienated from Christ the Karimi religion of Allah, then all that can happen to you is what? All that you have is what? Survival of the fittest, more power, more accumulation of the power. Not talking about only the military power or the monetary power or the power that you want is the power that you gain that power from the life in order to intensify the magnitude of your deadly dharma law of dharma into nothing, dharma into destruction. That's why the planet is warming up. Or the heliocentric lies that are centered around this heliocentric Big Bang, or due to brutal killing of billions of empty and full pots, whether empty or full, regardless of that, they are being showered by the mercy of Allah, although some of them are not taught to thank God, or to thank to a pile of cow dung, or a guru, or a yogi, or a boogie, or a monster, or an idol, or a dead genius that is getting Nobel Prizes and taking pictures like celebrities and talking about garbage, all sort of these things, whatever, under the half clay, half iron feet of their Vishwarupai figure of Daniel 2:32. And so that's why they are destroying the earth, as we read in Revelation 11:18. And that's why the earth is full. And if we see the fishes are dying because they are sad for the disaster that has happened to us. However, we have passed that event horizon of realization that we have already, that Obama, that piece of sack of vanity, that tremendous amount of toxic gas is with us, and that's why we have become completely numb against it. And then we think that an organization like UN that is getting money from the pocket of the banking system that is owned by a gay god is gonna support humanity or justice or equality or that kind of thing. That is absolute rubbish. And so again, they have returned to provoke me to anger. This is the blessing anger, because this is not an anger of an environmental activist, because they are brainwashed with the same violence and silence and khabas, or they don't know what to fight, how to fight, and why this is happening. Why? Because once you disconnect them from reading the Bible, then you have no clue what's going on. The only radar for the sheep that don't see to see is actually the Bible and the Holy Quran. And the ones that think that they see and they know the causal course of talking about carbon monoxide and bunch of garbage things that are less than 100-year-old, or the modern science less than 250-year-old school of digging in emptiness, or the Maya mirage, are completely alienated from that side. Again, this is the blessing of God if you have access to that rocky root. And they put their Krishnian index finger, or the four-finger flute, or the vein divising pipe, or zeroing zamar, zemora, zamar. These are that groups of the branches or the fingers that put zamar into the nose of, or what we call it as in Darwinism with the hush sound. They put theirs because they don't want to receive the breeze of God. That is not the breeze that makes you alive. That is just the basic aliveness. But the real livelihood is not the livelihood in which your mind machine works, but when you start falling in love and your heart start to works and fall in love and feel the pain of and feel the joy together. and low they put their and so like Darwinian hushing sound in order to refrain from receiving the aura.
If you manage a team, you have to try.
خبر دارد. Go for this song. I think I have translated this song. I have a very nutritious fig fruits from the garden of the master Rumia that have selected, because my garden is a collapsed unrealized garden, pile of sack, but I'm trying to steal fig fruits from the healthy gardens in order to compensate that. But again, they are refraining from receiving the aromatic aura and the colon cloud of Yasmina or Igzada Yazyazatahi Nif Snaf Nefel Nefesh. From again, we have the Nefesh or the nafs mentioned many times in Genesis 1, but that basic nafs is nothing but the egg, garlicky, flatulence, extremely stinky, and actually that's what these Hindu orangutans call it, holy smoke. But again, that has to go into a second part in order to become upgraded with a healthy one, with a rejoiceful and with a pleasing smell. From Gog&Magog, or giving gate pupil of Genesis 6:16, that's the window, or Khatamahul mosque, or the mosque meskon. In English, in Arabic, in Hebrew, of the Sambara belly button, or the face of Christ, or the belly button of the navel, the gazelle, naf of the Naphtali, or Naphtali, the Hind of dawn, or the Aylat al-Sahar that we have read before. Instead of receiving, another one in different with a different pronunciation, with a different sound. Instead of receiving this brisa from Isahi navel window of Noahi ark, bunch of Hindu chimpanzees like Newton, Confucius, Copernicus, and Plato would turn away and, like ostriches, put their heavy heads into Sahasrara sewerage of the boiling excrement. We call these orangutans that I mentioned here as bodhisattvas or Phrygian hats. Okay, and after inhaling fester flatulence into their Phrygian hats, they make false philosophies of the feel or of thought, or elephant Ganesha, and foolish assumptions that are centered around toxic suffocation of Brahmanic Helios. Because for them what matters is that black smoke, because that black smoke is the black smoke that by which you can make a stone, by which you can make a mind body that can be female or male, or mother or father, Gentile or Muslim, doesn't matter. Or you can make again a dinosaur, a hippo, a giraffe, a cow, a dog, any kind of thing. And so that is summarized in the holy water or the salt water, or the prithvi or the soil, the space and the air, and that's it. And the fire is for the Brahma or the Agni. That's the what these orangutans don't have, and in order to receive that fire, they have to get Agni or Ikni from Ankh or the Soma of these scumbag swastika, and so or Siddhartha. And so their Gnosticism, or the package of the Gnosticism that the Hupu of the Solomon is selling to them, or the Enki or the Harut or Huvartat or Khordad is selling them. The third month of the Zoroastrian calendar is named after him. That is selling them is nothing, is the knowledge of garbage can. But again, if you are a rotted Rama reptile in that garbage can, then what you want is to become the biggest and chubbiest cockroach in among all the crawling beasts down there. And so for that you don't care, because you don't have a taste of elegance, of the beauty. You just want more power, and that's how they buy it. That's the knowledge of garbage that actually the Ganesha has made a Ganusi or Shanusi in Persian, or Shanasei marketplace for it, and is selling it, mass selling it. But again, he is, as we will read, he warns to these monsters before selling that knowledge to them, that once you buy that, then you lose your hereafter. And that is written in Asura 202. And so ostriches, yes, would turn away, and like ostriches put their heavy heads into saucer or storage of the boiling excrement, and after inhaling festive flatulence into their Phrygian hats, they make false philosophies and full assumptions that are centered around toxic suffocation of Brahmanic Helios. Because whoever smelled that toxic, that actually we call it Sagat or Shikuts or Shakti, or abomination. And so once you smell it, then you become enlightened. And that's actually that God is lovingly saying that, like, you do that, then you're gonna fall down. Look all to all the Alices, Alices in the tumbling down in the rabbit hole. As far as I'm looking, among all the soulmates, as the Zeru or carrier of a little bit of yellow Karim Kuruma in the Babel or the Zelu bubble, as far as I'm looking, I cannot see even one single individual that has been able to receive the mark of the beast, or the fitna of Tasih Dajjal, or the acid LSD mark, and then has been able to survive, because whoever has smelled this toxic thing has just boop, fallen down. That's it. That's how scary it is. And that's why we say fear Allah, because the only way to that someone can actually breathe a revitalizing breeze into you after this toxicity, after being exposed to this toxicity, is the Christ Karimi logo sleep of Allah. However, again, these orangutans, they are putting what? The branches or the zamars into their finger, and they refrain from receiving it. They are power hungry sacks of ego. That's it. Their martial art. For these orangutans, breaking a 20 centimeter of a concrete wall is more important than the share of the hereafter, or the beauty, or the elegance, or the breeze. And what they want is just give me something that I can fly like a Merkaba, a UFO, like a Vimana, or give me something that I can have a good buzz and give a good buzz and a tantric sex to others. That's it. I mean, again, they have never been able to go beyond their genitalia or to their emptiness and the silence of their minds, and that's it. They either are up here or down here, or busy with their stomach, or again flirting with their minds, walking on the needles, hanging weights from their balls, and then doing their mumbo jumbo, and then enjoying of how they can make this mind medium of Maya mirage a malleable mercury for their maggoty minds. And that is the joy that they have. That's it. So after inhaling first the phalanges into Phrygia has, and so therefore will I also deal in fury. My Isahi I shall not spare. This is the El Shaddai Boaz that shall not spare. Alhamdulillah, all him to Allah. The most beautiful thing that can God do to these weeds of the backyard is to cut the crap. That's a blessing that God is bringing upon us, of exterminating the owners of the White House and the Pentagon and the Netanyahu system. Actually, he's nobody, but that system that has brought these maggots to the surface. And again, part of it is that God says, just anytime that Allah brings wrath upon these orangutans, and then it says that like away with the tyrants, and who are they exposing to the tyranny, and that is themselves, that is ourselves. And actually, like when we say that they have filled the land. What is the land? That the land is the earth, as Revelation 11:18. And who are the earth? We are the earth. We are nothing but a bunch of clays. We are a bunch of filthy clays. And so that's why we are demolishing ourselves, by denying our heavenly aspect and saying that no, I'm gonna make it here like heaven. I don't need the heaven. And again, that need, or that haji, or ihtiyaj, or hajat, is something that is, or hujjatul balagha, the legacy hajj in Hebrew or in Arabic, is missing. And so if there is not that need, or that burning zeal, or qayrat, or hasadat, or hasad, for the beloved Allah in the heart, then that is empty, void fruit. And so I shall not spare these wicked weeds, neither will I have pity through though they cry in my Isahi ears with a loud libertarian voice, and shaking rainbow flags, yet I will not hear them. Amen. O Ya Malik, O Ya Allah, and Malik of the hell, or Malak al-Moti Isa. Malik is the Christ, or the Malak al-Maut, or the angel of death and angel of hell. It is time for our species to be terminated. Now let us get to the rotten root of the dark magic or the deep teaching of the Satanama of Revelation 2:24. What the hell is this? Or the gentle Gnosticism, as I mentioned a little bit of it, and compare it with the Nazareti Gnosticism that is based on merciful miracles. If it's like the science or the magic that we have here. For such a comparison, let us take a love look at Holy Quran 2:102. That is the main ayah that I am going to cover for about talk about it around these two for about 200 something slides, the main body of the witness. And they, Taoist, Newton, René Descartes, Mayan shamans, Somad Einsteins, and the rotten rest of the scientific scapegoats of the Mount Seir or Seir, mount of the baby goats of the that Gautamai goat, which like to conquer the nature by conceptual numbers and measurement of فكر وقدر, or the plan of making the asbab that is mentioned also in the other asura that we read before, asura I think 85, the plans that we are going to look later on, followed what ethnos and so these are the ones like the bodhisattvas and the bodhi or abodani bodhi or abodhi, and then the Kali Kali or Satan or Shakti, followed what the ethnos teen, liberating, freeing, firing, shitaning, devils, shayatin, shitians, or the energy givers of the tian or teen or dead, the ghosts, the dead ghosts, or the saltwater swimming Qawwas creepings, or the ramishing ones, makaras or the makarers, had lingually, that is unmeasurable and unnumerable, recited or tatallud or told or tell, coming from the root tell, like telawat. The English tell is coming from telling, coming from Arabic telawat, or whispered, waswaswast during the Salam Sultani sovereignty, or the Mulk or the Maliki reign of Solomona, and at the Bismillahi back of the Maliki Zadaki Mulk. Again, when we're talking about the reign of Solomon, the reign of Solomon is still going on, and I have eaten the staff of the Solomon, and now these the Shitian she's or the energy packages that come, or the ghosts that come into the newest of the mankind, or the, because they find this animal mind manhole is a good hole to suitable hole to possess and to reside in it during the these are the ones that have come into the bodhisattvas at the highest level, or the digits, or the Phrygian hats of the pharaoh or Mitra Surya, and at the lower levels the junk hippie levels, and then the mainstream happy holly healthy garbages down there, just low quality cobra copper is enough for them, not the gold ghosts of the hellhole. it was not upstream swimming salmon Saramana who disbelieved, but the Deva-Devi devils disbelieved, or Kippur covered, wiped off the Kolonahi love light of the Legacy lamblance of Allah, and that love light is La ilaha illa Allah. What does it mean that they disbelieved, or kifurd, or kafired, or covered? It means that like a photophobic bats, they turned away and then they towed into the ego, or twisted or tied with the empty ego, and then they said that no, I am the God, or the Atman is equal to the Brahmani jinn fire if I get this one fused together. And so once this is fused together, then you become a God Atman, or Brahman Atman. And so once that happens, then you don't need any God or any La ilaha illallah or any word and anything. And that's how they have this belief. And so the Kolonahi and called or neglected it as emotion secondary, Maya mirage of heaped Sahaba Markum, and they said it's just a heaped cow-cross cloud of the mercy, don't pay attention to it, or the messianic makeup. For them it is the secondary. For them the upgrade is not necessary. All they are doing is dharma into the mind machine, and then they say the mind is enough, you don't need any love to go up, because that is frightening for them. They can walk on the fire, they can put needles on themselves, they can crunch numbers, they can make the heaviest and most complicated formulas in the mind mansion that no other animal with the average IQ level of 60 in the feet can figure out where the hell these things are coming, or that these ghosts are making inside their host animal bodies. But they are afraid of that love, because that is where their power is finished, or their realm is becomes over. And so their loser logic said dirty and ugly face is primal. Without playful face mind, there is no makeup, and a Christian cosmetic is necessary, and thus shamelessly rejected the beauty, cleanliness, aesthetic essence of the language of a Hezbollahi human. And that's why their Kenyan ingenuity and naked art was not accepted by Allah, because what they offered to Allah said that, well, I'm not interested in the tech toys that the geniuses would make. I'm more interested in a Masnavi, Mahnavi, or in a love letter, or in a gospel, a prayer book, because for the consciousness, the most genius choice that the consciousness can make is to exalt the one that has made this master creation, not to go and make bunch of tech toys and stuff like that. That is the ultimate crux of the consciousness, to realize that it is nothing. And thus they so they went into Vanity Valley with total and overheated engines. We were here. But accepted by Allah. God loves Rumi poetry. God said, bring me a zamar mizmari flute, or that is singing the psalms on a zebra sheet, that is getting that flute to sound harmonious, because I am the master of the beauty. And this false cacophony that the Kenyan ingenuity is making is completely false. And if you want to make it harmonious, then you have to have the love that is completely that doesn't exist in the realm of the mind machine. And so that love gets the poetry or the share or the serious or serious to come from the very same God, and then to be processed by man, and then to be offered to the God, so that Allah can like it if He wants. It is from Him and for Him. And so God loves Rumi poetry, not rubbish LHC or of scientific spider sapiens or their astray arts or their pyramids, and the one that makes mountains is not interested in the pyramids. Okay. And so by rejecting the Christ, the charismatic coolant or goldenly overlaying olive oil, they went into Vanity Valley with their mind machines with total and overheated engines, because the charismation is where the cooling comes, and that cooling is inside the safe or the chambara or the sambara of the heart. And so once you don't have it, you just warms up, your mind becomes heated up, and then you think that like a hamster in a sahasrara wheel, in a samsara wheel, you are just speeding up, but you are not going anywhere. You're just thinking like an end-time human that, ooh, I have internet, I am very advanced, but you're not actually. You are much more dumber than the average people in Nineveh when Jonah or the Yunus came and tell them that God is gonna terminate you, and then they actually listen to him because they know something that nowadays we have covered it and tossed it outside under the euphemistic title of superstition. Just we don't deal with those things. The poetry and the language is talking about something that is not measurable, and you cannot put it on a scale, or you cannot toss number at it. And because the business, the monkey business will be over if you want to talk about that part. And so that's why all of our mind machines are completely overheated engines that are actually gathered in a gigantic junkyard, and every title of the car has different types of degrees, university degrees stick it to their butts, but by the bunch of other apes that have no clue what's the reality. We call them professors in our universities. And then all together this gigantic junkyard is being governed by the magnetic surveillance system of the thoughtful pharaoh. And the idea, the only way that this junkyard can maintain its existence is that the vehicles that go outside of this must be terminated, so that they cannot come back and tell to the rest of the vehicles that, guys, you need to have the sales service from the manufacturer of the engine, because the engine by itself is empty, and you have to have the post-sale services, and that is the coolant that you have to buy it only from the clever manufacturer that has kept the coolant, the technology of the coolant for himself, so that no matter how fancy is the engine of your carrier, you cannot do anything without going and getting it from the manufacturer. However, in order to do that, you have to be smart enough, like a Muslim and Christian, to realize that your engine is totaled and it is overheated, and now that is because of lack of the coolant. And so you, in this junkyard, you see all sort of the gangsters of the Ganesha making gigantic rusted cars, but they cannot walk and they are just stuck there. And the best that they can do, make a gigantic huge chunk of nothing, like a orangutan that is seated in silence and meditation. Again, these are all the bullying gangs in that stinky suburb. Coolant is in holy hand of manufacturer. Planned providence of Allah was and is to defeat the unthankful fools that felt independent as soon as they were given an animalistic engine or a mind of base consciousness. And so once they get it, then they say, all right, we don't need the manufacturer, we're on our own. But again, a couple of kilometers and they went and pop, their engine just blew up. In other words, God tested them by giving them the Galilee Gardeni gun of a muddy mind without magazine, and now they are pointing it toward God. That's the entire Ramayana and the Rig Veda rubbish that I don't even wipe my butt with the holy books of these Hindu orangutans after defecation. That's what their story is about. The story of the Mahishasura Mardini or Dushara or the death of the Christ is nothing but this bunch of orangutans and genius bodhisattvas pointing their gun toward God and saying that, like, we don't need that chrismation coolant that make our engine fluently working in a way that is not according to our demonic desires. And loving to kill his Ravanahi Rivera of Sweet Seresht Kresht Seresht instead of water Warda, they are teaching these devils in the Babel pit, which is where the reign of the Solomon, until the reign of Solomon ended, when I ate, or actually not ended, but went into its last cycle before the judgment day, so that it can execute judgment day upon me, you, and the rest of us. And that last phase was started after I ate that Solomon's Mansa'at, or kind of like menacing, but basically deterring or postponing key of Solomon in 34:14 or Revelation 9:1, a fallen star that eat the key, and then the Pandora box became open. These talks are part of that I have opened it, or basically upon my fall I have opened it. And now the Buddha Abudani Obama, the dildo that all of these Shiva Lingam licking orangutans have been worshipping for thousands of years, is now here, and he is getting as an inside job to get the pervert plan of the prison break to look likely for the evil inmates of the jailbreak that are like bunch of puffed up muscle bubbles, man and woman, on soma steroid. For about 60 to 70 years he's been just pumping LSD into the hippie orangutans, into the mass psyche of the vegetarian hippie orangutans and environmental activists that are graduated from the universities of post-Renaissance era, in which church is just like a decorative kindergarten agency, or basically the opinion of the church about the reality, or masking about reality, is just not acceptable for our plagued civilization anymore. And so now again, this shows how much unthankful we are, and actually this shows how much the coolant is important, or the chrismation is in fact important. Once you lose that, then all of these things happen to you. Again, anyone that has been thinking outside of the Christ box, or the Christ Kaaba, or the Christ cube, or the Christ kibotos, have fallen into the hellhole. That is where we call it the Metatron cube of this godfather of the jailbreak plan, that gets these orangutans to make that foamy gun to be pointed toward the god, but they have but the victim buyers of the plan of the jailbreak have no idea that this orangutan is actually working for the owner and the administrator of the prison, and he's just steering these orangutans on the Soma steroid. But the guards of this jailbreak are gonna pulverize these chimpanzees, inshallah, with all of their American empire, Chinese empire, Chinese army, all of their pagodas, all of it, as well as the mosques and the bloody churches that have been selling sodomy or those kind of things, or even again this is a plague in a global scale, and that's why actually the judgment there will be not only upon those churches and mosques, but also upon the good ones, the healthy ones. Again, the wheat and wheat will be uprooted together once the hour is come. But again, the part of that uprooting will be rapture, a good rapture, healthy rapture, and then the Khan will come upon the hypocrite ones, as well as the wasted ones of that have been have bought that jailbreak plan. I'm not no one of these inmates actually know about the skill and the size and the power of the prison guards, and again, all that they can do is to get the inmates to hate the angels of the Christ. And again, that's why this Soma and Samael and the agony of the ignited or the illuminated apes of the Antichrist, this agony and Soma only causes or provokes to jealousy, as we read in Ezekiel 8. And so loving to kill his Ravana. Instead of water word, they are teaching people geophagic magic, or sihr, or shiri, what we call it shiri. These orangutans in Rig Veda call it shiri. That shiri, or the morning soma meal, or even sometimes we call it sahar, as the morning manna halal meat. It depends what Allah has willah, and how Christ is going to make it, because that's the paste that you are eating, this paste. the deadliest paste that you can, that's the toxic thing that you are eating, and you're going to hellhole. And so either God's mercy cooks that with the fire flare and make it a bread, and then that shiri or sehr becomes the food of the heaven, or it remains magic. And so teaching people, and so what the hell, these ghosts of the hell that is owned by the Malik, as well as the Malak al-Maut, or the angel of the death, or the Hadisat, or the pottery pit, where the Hadisat, or the accident, or the dropping of a pot and breaking it happens, or ihdas happens, or making a new pot with the leftover paste of that pot happens without reincarnation, because all the pots with their forms are unique, and they will all be rebuilt all together for the judgment without reincarnation, although that paste is being reused. And so these geophagic moles, or these geophagic orangutans, they don't realize it. All they can do is to eat that soil, or like a termite that eats what, the paper of a book. But that orangutan cannot read. It's an illiterate one. It can solve the differential equations, but it cannot understand the Rumi poetry. These orangutans, these sodomite psychopaths and damaged brains, are full of hatred from against a god that showers tombstone once they are penetrating in their anuses, inside the anus of each other, or shove dildos into each other if they are lesbian, or whatever garbage they do. And so all they can think is about the fact that the party is over, because this god doesn't like the filthy thing that I'm doing. And actually the most damaged of them are the ones that actually want to look like a father, or to double father or double mother. Anyway, may God destroy them as soon as possible. But before that, I want to say that this geophagic action is what we call it eating of the paper. And once you eat the paper, you as an illiterate termite, then you miss the story, and then you think, oh, well, this paper, I ate it before. This paper all the way tastes like the 4 elements: water, soil, space, and air. That's it. And if I want to cook it, then I need a gene fire to do masonry job with it. And so the love story that is written on the book is just for an alien god, and that is not a big deal. And so that's why they buy the idea of the reincarnation, because this paste is the paste that my word is written, and the next word will be written, or the previous word was written on it. And so the word can sit on that paste and or to be written. But however, the energetic paste is not a big deal. God is not short in the paper. What is important is the love story. But again, they don't realize. That's why the reincarnation is all about the page, and that's what we call it geophagy, or that's why we call these masters of Hindu orangutans as the pigs, or the ones that plow or make talmai cracks in the clay, in the kundalini clay. But that is love story free, or the logos free, or the word free. And so, or the beauty free, or the cleanliness free, or the front that doesn't have any aesthetic essence, or any ecstasy, or anything. And so that's why they fall into believing in a reincarnation. However, the working with these 4 elements and cooking it with this gene fire has its own science, and that science is the Ganushi, Ganosi, Nosisi, Shanasi, that Ganesha is selling them. And so they are extremely powerful in working with the paper, but the wording and the writing and the ink on it is just like nothing for them. They are completely illiterate, but they can eat that and then say where, how it was used in the previous life, or what kind of pot it was it the dinosaur pot, what size was the aperture and the diameter of the pot, how big was the depth of the pot, or how many pots were being demolished and then remolded their molds in order to make this new pot. And all of these can go into that etching, recycling. These are the masters of the recycling of the paste of the plain pages. However, the ink and then the writing on it for them is not they're not interested in it. And so that is what we call it reincarnation. And once you miss the idea, then you realize that, oh, this there is an owner that is gonna can just burn this entire book, or can get every single word written in this book to become resurrected on the same amount of page or plane. And again, that is something outside of the creation, transformation, destruction. That is called resurrection, and that's the stream and the story and the purpose of the simulation. If you are illiterate and you cannot read Bible, but you have plenty of funky quantum fart physics degrees, then you have farted and wasted your life, or someone actually farted into your brain with khali khali, vacuum, void. That's the meaning of this thing, of this entire, they call it actually at the end Maya Mirage. And so you have bought nothing and then you lost the story. And so the shayateen that have disbelieved teach people and teaching people what, and as we will see, all of these shayateens are working under the supervision of Harut and Marut, teaching people geophagic magic, or sihr, Arabic, Persian, sihr, shari, and that Nazi gnosis, which was revealed to the two toppled angels of Khordad and Mordad, the Malakain Babel. Khordad, or that we call it as Gnostic Ganesha, or Ganusi, or Fil, Ashabul Fil are coming from here, people of the elephant, or Fil of the philosophy. These are the festered philosophers that all that they can do is their philosophy is based on the plain page. The philosophy, because they are the masters of the knowledge of the evil, or the knowledge of the garbage, or the knowledge of the pointlessness, or the knowledge of vanity. And that is what we call it Ganushi, or Ganosi, or Shanasi. I forgot to mention it here. The G in we will look at it later. In Greek becomes a she, in Persian or in Aramaic, and then we have the ns, and then it becomes the shenus, or the identity, or realization, or the knowledge. The ganus, shenus, shanasi, and so that's where the Ganesha comes. Okay, that in fact it is, and the Sanskrit Ganesha is Shanesa, or Shanase, or the one that gives you realization. but realization of the knowledge of evil. Or the fallen Nephilim. The Nephilims are coming not from the fall, but from PHF. Although I've written it here, but that fell or feel in fact Nephilim of the philosophy, and that's the Fester philosophy, or the philosophy of the elephant, and that's the 105th Asura of Holy Quran is named after Harut, or we call it as turmeric haritra. Haritra is or they love Harut. These are the people of Enki, or Anak, or Onok, or the thick neck elephant, or Tot, Harut, or we call it in Avesta as Hurvatat. Hurvatat, or as I said, third month of the year, we call it Khordad in Persian pronunciation, or Hermes, or Hupu of the Solomon, the fallen Tot, or Ibis, whether Ibis or Hupu is just the same, or they call it bird snake, or the feather Kitzel Kotel, or the Varun Baruna, or the toppled inverse raindrop. And we will look at the story of how and why the Hermes was toppled down from heaven, and his consort Mati Maruta. We have it. We have even the Hebrew of it. Of mortal emerald, the emerald tablets that Merad, or Mordad, we call it in Persian, that Mordad or Mortat, Meret, or Mered, or Mord, or Amerat, or Amertat, we call it, or Amordad, which means a or on Merdad, and that's how the emerald is made, and the emerald tablet. Or the Mud Mortal, or the Mount Meru that we have it, or we call it in Greek as a Heket, or Hoke, or the Heji, that gives the knowledge of the Hejet, or the Ash Foamy Ifrit Aphrodite Ifrit, which are known as Katu of Katus and Katupats, the two in Mitzvah Surya, Kant cult of the Mitzvah Surya. Forgot the pronunciation. Katus and Katupats. The Katus is the Enki, or the elephant, or the Hupu, or the Harut. And then we call it the other one is the Katupats. They are going together, Tot and Mat, or Enki, and we call it Nin Shubur Ninsar, or Nanesar, or Nin Shubur, or turmeric sunrise. Turmeric is for the Haritra, which means Zarid. That's where the Hari later on comes, but again that the Hari doesn't only go to the Enki but goes to Barack Obama. Turmeric sunrise of the Barak son Utu Shamesh, Matla or Shams, or Antelio, Matla or Antelio. And murky sunset of Barak son Utu Shemesh, or Maghrab or Shams. And so Matla or Shams and Maghrab or Shams, these are at the two sides of the Antichrist. And so we have at one side the Harut, and at the other side we have the Marut, or Katus and Katupats, respectively. But the two angels, now this is where the justice comes, do not teach Taoism, okay, or Ganesha Gnosticism to anyone working with the four elements, that with the at the presence of the fifth element of the Brahmanic fire can give you the power of masonry and cooking brain bricks. unless they say we are a trial or fitna or python. Python in English comes from fatan, in Arabic or Persian, test. So do not disbelieve by becoming the Moksha student of Advaita Vedanta, or by becoming the Atmanic Tian of Brahmanic Shishishitian. And that she is the shit power that sits on the clay and toasted, and then you are just become the what we read in Asura 66 verse 6, that God will fill up the hellfire or the scorching sorrow with the stones. These are the stones that are cooked, the bricks that are cooked in Genesis 11. And so once the she of the shakat or the sakti or shakti, shikutsi, the abomination jinn fire, or the soma narol masmum, or the sammi fire of dark Durga dragon, cooks you, then you are terminated. Or by becoming the membrane globing ego god behind Shri Sri Yantra. And so membrane globing is when you go to the level of the, okay, we will read it actually here, or the Shri Sri Yantra that you are buying from Shiva serving Enki, because Enki says that I'm not gonna give you any kind of fit unless you believe that you can become a god. Once you join and hang from Shajaratul Mal'una, or the accursed tree, or the Siddhartha tree. And who the hell is the Siddhartha? As the fartful Pharaoh that gives Ra'ad, or real Ra'a, of in Hebrew, of the thunderbolt, the barak of the Egypt. And so once you allow him to bolts you with his thunderbolt, barak babuni thunderbolt, and then your hairs are sheed out, then you have become one of us, but again you've lost your hereafter. Or by worshipping the Obama Shamashan or Anu Hanuman, or the 11th avatar of Ishtarat, or the Ishte King Kong, Ishtari King Kong, of Ishtar Shakti Shatanama, or Satanama, or Sadnam, or Saitana, or the 108 Ashtorat Shatanama. And yet they learned, they are power hungry, hey? And so yet they learned from them that Brahmastranic shoots from Suryantranic astrolabe, and Leishang, we call it Lijang, lashes, lash we call it here too, Lijangi lashes, or the thunders, or jinjets, that's how the jinjets comes, or the lashes, the lisheng we call it, lash, in also in English, of discharged dung force, or the ikon kian. And that's how from Kevan or Kian, or the Saturni dasharat, of Pinaka Fank, we call it, Panak Fanak, Fang or Fang, Windbow sickle. And so once you have these lashes, once you have enough energy to lash it on the pot and hack it, then you can send that lishang upon a cone, or on the ground. That's how they become the Brahmans. They gain elevations above the Haman or Hamuna, or the desert, or the flat ground, or discharge dung force, or the icon hacker from the Kiani district, by which they cause له کردن, لی or living apart, or یفرقون, or burning separation upon marital con, or that's in the field, the film of the field, where there is a couple like me, Amir, and my wife, my ex-wife Anahita, that we were unarmed and naked. They could easily pulverize or attack our marriage between an Amiri man and his naked wife Anahita. But they do not harm anyone through this hack of a soul, except by the permission of Allah. Because if Allah and Ya'zun, if permission of Allah was not there, they cannot do it, because at the same time in the Qarar or Makin, the pot is stabilized by the mercy of God. And so that's how, from the under of a table, if you hit it, although the plates might just jump a little bit, but if God does wants, you cannot break the plates. But if God wants, then you can get the plates to completely topple over or to break them by hitting from the under of a table. That's the kind of looking that inside that membrane, the membrane that these jailbreaking inmates, evil inmates, the sack of Baha'i blanks and bangs are actually a stockpile waiting for Armageddon release into the winepress of wrath of God for termination. And so, but they do not harm anyone through it except by permission of Allah. And the Platonic people of the Northern Rebellion, inside that thing, bondage breaking parasites or life dissecting leeches of death and unpowered vampires of Vayu, will learn what harms or zeros them or yazurrahum, because in order to become something that can affect everything, whether a dinosaur or a hippo or an owl, as a shaman of Gautama, of God shaman, or of goat cement of the goat, then you have to become nothing. And so once you become nothing and you disbelieve that you are nothing, your parents are nothing, your everything is nothing, then you can start playing around with the basically everything in that field, because everything for you has come from nothing. And so what we call it as the end time theory of the black holes and that kind of thing, these are all completely ancient, refurbished in scientific models, a story or the philosophy or the philosophy behind the retard physics that these bodhisattvas, Nobel Prize physics, Nobel Prize winning bodhisattvas have bought from Hupu of the Solomon and Maruti Amertat. And so but they do not harm the man and wife, as we said. And so and the Platonic people, yazurruhum, that's how, again, that's how it hurts their own heart, it harms their own, because once you jump into the acid pool, you are completely washed away. But once you become washed away and then you become a ghost, then you can discharge dung forces upon whoever you want. And that's why some Hindu clays at the surface, at the ground level, of Kon worship these animals because they have reached to the power of yakoning, or basically lashing or lishanging, or sending fangy wind bows, or the wind jets or the jinn jets that can basically hurt the pagan primates that are afraid of these monsters in the jungle. And the Platonic people of the Northern rebellion, or the bondage breaking person, they cannot only harm themselves and make them addicted to false fear, rotted respect, and retard reverence that Northern apes would give to their empowered King Kongs, or the goatee shamans and guru pigs with shent hats, of both with the shed and with the headset. It is this poison, harmed, hateful, scared, survivalist, and empowerment addicted ego of the Advaita Vedanta non-dualism, that you have to become nothing, and then for you everything is just written on that plain page of nothing, or Maya mirage membrane that finds the other akhirat, or the day door to the Eden eternity, or the story that is written on the page, as Ravanahi, river enemy of its eternally dried and silenced nirvana, and say that how about eating whatever paper is and then we just die. Yeah, it is this mercury poisoning with aphrodisiac passion potion, or soma sexration, or sexual liberation liquor that kills the rocky reason and legacy logic. These are all again coming from the story that is written on the paper, and then enslaves the empty ego in hot emptiness of a sexy psyche. And then over there in that hot emptiness, your engine becomes totaled, and you become overheated, and that's it. And it does not benefit them, but they certainly knew and were told by clever Quetzalcoatl that that whatever purchases or ishtara, dharmic law of nirvana ignorance, and loser logic of mokshad minds, and Kabbalistic conceptions which cost them selling their humanness and liberation from holy heaviness of the lingual meaning behind their words. And so whatever purchases will not have, and whoever purchases will not have in the other, or in the akhirat, the other akhir, the day door of the heavenly hereafter, any share. And wretched and basic is that Samadic oversimplification of consciousness, and sound based divination, and 180 climbing to Shinari sand dunes, or Ashtara Satanama, climbing to Shinari sand dunes, for which they sold their Atmans, or their souls, to Brahmani Saturn Mushtari. It is shatter, or mushtar, what we have it in shatter, if they only knew. And so this was the story of the Asura 2 verse 102, about the Hurvatat and Amartat. And so here you can see the Ishtar, or the Statue of Liberty, and the penis under her vagina, or the American monument, or the Barack Obama dildo that Muslims do, Ramli Jamare, or stoning of the devilish dildo inside devilish yoni vagina. And so this together become Ashtarat Shatanama. And then here we have the Enki, or the toad, or the Ganesha elephant, as well as the Mat, or the Amartat. And here we have the we have the Ganesha, and this is what we call it as the let's say like the Mother Earth, or the Gaian gap, Gailani gap. And then we have the Ashtar Shatanama again, or we have the Antichrist, and we have the Satan, or the Lady Liberty, or the Shiva, or the Shakti. This is the Shiva, and this is the Shakti lady, or Sagat Khali Kali lady, or the Osiris. And this is the Isis, and this is the Osiris, or the Horus, or the Baal husband, and then the lady mother, in kind of like an incest relationship. And this is the mother and the wife. And so here we have these two are basically Tat and Mat again here. And this one is what we call it as the hell hole, or the Mother Earth. And here you can see again the penis that is inside the vagina of the Surya. And so we have as the zero, or the zero here, the names like Mother Earth, or the woman Emra'at, the valley of the Emra'at, or the lady of the 27/18/23, that has providing the Akashic space, or the plane, or the energy of the four elements for every creature, every program, and every word that is written on her. And that's the left hand of Allah. We call it the Babel borehole, or the Babel. This is the Babel, the Malakain Babel. These are all inside the Hamatan, Ainan Hamatan, or the spring, or the hellhole, or the Chah Babel, or the well of Ming Mad, or the dark, or the heated Mad, or the end-lighted Ahomd Mad, or we call it also as Nergali Gulet Nargalu, or Ninhur Sagi, or Hofratam Menan Nar, or Akhdud, or the trench, or we call it as the Gaia, Gia, Gaia, I spring, Ain of homing mud, or the of Asura 18 verse 86. This is where the sun, or the Shemesh, goes into where? Into the dark spring of dark mud. Not in this realm. Once it goes into the spirit realm, that's where and that's where the Barack Obama comes out of it, or the bottomless pit. And so false duplicate of the Nandi, or Manand, or Amdad. This is the false duplicate. These orangutans worship the Gaia, but again as part of the Game of Thrones thing. But again, her throne, or her Arshul Azim, or her vagina is just a place for all of these anomalies to be dumped into it. also we call it, as well as the energetic wars that energy packages that are basically in the Galilee Gardenic or Galilee. This is another name of her is Galilee, or Daraka, or Darakan, or Darkan, or the shoveled shafal, or the asfalon shaft of Dead Sea, or the second death, or the Bahrul Masjur, or Jehannam of 52:13, or the Sheol, Hathor, Hell, Ehdas, Hades, pottery pit. And so here we have the scarlet beast of the scarlet mud, or the menstruation of the Mother Earth, and that is Ashtaroth Shatanama, or the Ishtar, Satan, or the Shiva Shakti, or we have it as the Durga dragon and Dajjal Dracula, or we have it as the Kalikant and Caesartic penis, or we have it as Mitra Surya, or the Krishna Kharash, the scratch, and then the under Indra, or we have it as the Buddha beast, Bel, and the Satan, or the golden Kafinazi eagle. And also here we have number 1. Here there is a cow, that these are killing the cow in their Mitra Suryaism cow. That one that is mentioned is the head of the cow, or we call it Bagare, or is the Christ Karimi, Lamb of God. And then we have the 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the 2 is the Ganesha fallen Phil, or the Haridra Horud, or the Ibis, or the Hupu, or the Thoth, or the Varuna, or the inverse rain. And then we have the 3, or the Mad, the double-faced Maruti Marut, or Meru, Emerald, the Amertad, or Nin Shubur, or Izimut. And so Izimut, the double-faced Izimut, or Ninshubur, or the consort of the lady consort of the Lady Satan, that it is basically what we call it as the Ninshubur, or the Izimut.